Hope, welcome back to my channel. This is Josh. He is gonna be our guest today. We're gonna be talking about video content stuff, which I'm excited about because we get lots of questions about this. Josh is the guy that films literally anything you've ever seen from me. He's filmed all my courses, all my YouTube videos, all my promo footage on my website. Everything is done by Josh. He is awesome at what he does. But this is my YouTube channel, if you haven't been here before, where I share educational content for entrepreneurs and a little peek of my life living in the Charleston Low Country. And I'm really excited about this topic today. So one of the things that we are gonna talk about, or I think one of the common misconceptions about creating video content as an entrepreneur is that it has to be crazy difficult in this crazy advanced setup.
Yes.
I'm somebody that is awful at this. I literally hired Josh to come do this for me because I am so bad at doing my own video content because I overcomplicate everything and I have very high standards for the content quality.
But to be fair, a lot of people, especially in videography, make things very complicated.
Yes.
Because most of video people are nerds and they love all the technical aspects, so we think everybody else likes it too. Yeah.
That's why we
exactly.
have you here. But I think that, well, first of all, we have a link in the description below for a equipment list, right? Of
Yes.
what your recommendations are, and it's totally free. So if you want to download that, it might be helpful for them to download that and follow along with the video today as we kind of talk through each of these things. But Josh recommends that, what we're going to talk about today is not camera gear necessarily. So basically, he recommends using whatever camera and lenses that you already have at your disposal if you're a photographer. And whether you're trying to film for YouTube or promo content or an online course, what we're going to talk about today applies, right?
Yes, pretty much everything.
So super stoked about this, but he recommends using whatever camera or lens that you have at your disposal. And what we're going to talk about today is audio. And what are the three things?
Audio, lighting, and then I guess the third one's kind of camera focus. It's talking about getting critical focus, because if you're filming yourself, it's gonna be hard to nail focus. So
yeah,
autofocus is your friend with video.
Yeah, that's what I suck at. I always forget to turn on the autofocus features, and I'm really, really bad at the audio stuff. So those are the three most important things we're gonna talk through, because those are the things that are most important when it comes to video, even more so than the camera or lenses that you're using. The audio and lighting quality is really gonna determine the quality of the videos, right?
Yes, totally agree.
Sweet. Okay, so first thing we want to talk about, audio. Is that right?
Yeah.
Lighting. No, lighting was first. That was my fault.
Yes. So lighting is first. One of the most important things with video is consistent lighting. And in the beginning of my business, I shot everything with natural light because video lights are expensive. And I slowly, over the years, started getting into more and more video lights. You would think, especially with the photographer, they shoot all natural light stuff. If you're a studio photographer, you might think a little bit differently, but a lot of natural light photographers, and I got my background in wedding videography, we just use natural light. We use whatever's there. But if you're filming,
stresses me out.
Yes, it is kind of stressful, but it doesn't have to be that complicated, which is why we're making this video. When you're doing longer segments like this, like talking head shots, you don't want to do outside light because the sun changes, clouds come in and out, and if you're shooting, even if you're shooting completely manual to dial in the look that you want, the light's gonna change, it's gonna get super dark, or it's gonna change your white balance, it's gonna go from looking very nice lighting to looking super warm or super cool. So invest in a good video light. I'm gonna list off some video light models, and again, I wanna keep this as simple as possible, so I'm gonna kind of breeze through it, but all the links will be down below. I'm gonna put my guide down below, and then I'll also link all these products on Amazon so you guys can check them out. The main video light company that I use is Aperture. This light that we're using right here, which will show you.
It's magical.
Yeah, it's magical. It's like the heavens being presented to
really
us. This is a pretty expensive light because I obviously do a lot of this stuff for a living. This is like a $1,100 light. But luckily, Aperture, they make really good quality daylight balanced lights. So for photographers, that's like 5,500 Kelvin. And they just released a line called the Amaron line, and that line has a $199 light called the 100D and a $299 light called the 200D. And they're essentially the same quality lights, they're just not built like tanks. Like this one, as I'll show you right now, is literally huge, and it's made out of metal, super heavy duty, and it's meant for production sets. This one that I'm recommending is plastic, but it'll get the same quality, has the same color accuracy as this light, and it will get the job done.
Yeah, well, and I think the important thing to remember as a business owner that's trying to do more video content is you don't have to have the top level stuff. There's no need for somebody that's doing YouTube videos as an entrepreneur to need an $1,100 light unless you're doing videography for a living. And I think that was one of my misconceptions about me, wanting to do my own video content, is that it stressed me out thinking I needed all of this expensive equipment, but you can get the cheap stuff. It will work just as well, and it serves its purpose.
And most people won't notice. I will notice small things, even yesterday when we were filming, I noticed a slight color shift, but if you're not staring at videos 24/7, you're not gonna notice it.
I never notice those things.
In fact, for the first, I think 2 or 3 courses, I used that I made for Hope, I use these very inexpensive lights, which are in my guide. I don't recommend them as much anymore because, as I said, the new aperture lights are leaps and bounds better and they're basically the same price. But I use these lights forever and they get the job done. So with these can lights here, you don't want to use them without a modifier. And lighting modifiers are basically something that you shoot the light through to make it diffused and nice looking, which hopefully this image looks nice. I tried, but there's a lot of different variations. The one I use is actually a knockoff one. The one that we rented here is one made by Aperture. It's relatively expensive, but basically you just want something to attach to it. I'll link some down below, and it just makes the light come out in a big light source. It's not super harsh looking. If you had no modifier on it, it would look very harsh and angular, and that is a look that some people want for certain movies and stuff, but most of the time for YouTube lighting, you want it to look nice and soft. So
right. So you would just recommend that one light and have it pointing directly at you for filming, and that's kind of all you need baseline.
Yes, that's all you need. I mean, if you want to make it fancier, you can do this one light off to the side and then do a backlight, as we mentioned in our stories yesterday.
Yeah.
But this literally works like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm using this for a little bit of fill light and then another light down here just to kind of even out the background, but you could use just this light and then turn it all the way up and it would look great.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a complicated background like we have right now, it would probably work perfectly.
Yes, it'd be fine.
Amazing. Okay, so then second up is audio. This is the piece that overwhelms the heck out of me because it's so confusing. And so the audio piece though, Josh really simplified this for me because he's filming my YouTube videos right now, but I filmed quite a few of them on my own with his suggestions for equipment and gear and like workflow. And so he has really simplified this for me and made it super easy, and it doesn't scare me anymore. So let's talk audio really quickly.
Yes, so there's a lot of different ways that and a lot of opinions in the industry about what you should use for audio. A lot of people use field recorders you plug a bunch of mics into. Again, we're here for simple, not complicated, and I think this sounds pretty good. Does this sound good? All you need to know is you need a lav mic, which is this little guy right here. We both have clipped on, and it gets the audio source nice and close to your mouth. That way it's not sounding super echoey, and it sounds very high quality. Now, a lot of lav mics connect to a recorder, as I just mentioned, and that means you have to sync the audio to your track in post. You don't want to do that. That's too confusing. So these mics actually sync directly and plug directly into the microphone jack on the camera, and it syncs them all together in a nice little sandwich.
Yes.
And you just edit it as one file in post-production, which again simplifies things.
Yep.
A lot of people make things way too complicated and for marginally better results.
Right. Well, and I outsource the editing to you, and so I don't even have to edit the audio, but it's good to know that that's like one audio file, which makes it so much easier.
Yeah, literally you could just get this mic, and again I'm going to link these down below. You could get just this mic, one camera, this one light, and you could shoot exactly like that. You don't have to make it more complicated. We do it because I'm a little bit extra, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah, and honestly, like just the quality of video content is not near as important as the content that you're giving out, but I do think there's something to be said for the aesthetics, and I think there's something to be said for production quality, and I think there's a lot of people on YouTube that are filming with like just their webcam or with their iPhone, and that's fine, and that's great, and that works because like I said, the quality of the content you're delivering should be the most important, but I think that if you want to level things up, this is just a super easy way to like set yourself apart from everybody else with really good production quality.
Yes, and I should have put this audio as number one, because I think that no matter how expensive your lights are, how expensive your cameras are, it could look really, really good. You'd be shooting on a $30,000 Red Cinema camera, but if you click into somebody's video and they have bad audio, you're going to click off in like 3 seconds. And just to prove that, let me show you.
Oh, I'm scared.
How does this sound? Does this sound good? Would you continue watching if the audio sounded like this? I'm willing to wager you probably would not.
I don't even know.
The image looks nice. We have a bunch of really expensive lights up, but the audio sounds terrible. Okay, so for microphones, I recommend basically one brand because I've been using them forever, and I like to recommend what I know. I use a brand called Rode. They have a really good entry wireless mic system called the Rode Wireless Go, and it's a tiny little thing you stick on top of your camera, and then it's a tiny little clip. It's like a little box you put here, and it works as the lapel mic and a receiver. Super small, super not complicated, and it sounds great. And that's $199, which, again, if you're coming from not experiencing like any camera gear at all, that probably sounds expensive. But in terms of video equipment and photography equipment, I mean, you've invested in quite a few camera lenses and camera bodies throughout your career, and it's pretty expensive. So if you have to invest in anything, I would say honestly go for that over the light first. $199, and your video is going to sound great. And as I just showed you, you don't want to have audio out of your camera. It sounds horrible.
Yeah, so prioritize the audio. Lighting is second best. And then I think too, like we're speaking to entrepreneurs that maybe are looking to level up their video game. Like this might not be necessary for you if you're just beginning with video content, but I do think that this is like really helpful to somebody that's been doing video content for a while and wants to like step it up and kind of almost automate the process of like simplifying the way that their videos, but like level up the production quality while making the process easier. I think this is super awesome information. So then final thing that's important is focus, which I'm awful at. So
I didn't want to dive super deep into different camera bodies because, as you can tell already, just between lights and microphones, it's a whole can of worms. But for camera bodies, I mean, if you're not using your iPhone, which obviously has good autofocus, you really want a newer Canon camera because they have something called dual pixel autofocus. And basically all you need to know about dual pixel autofocus is right now, you can see on the screens, I'll try to clip in some B-roll of it, but you just tap on the face and it does face tracking and I believe a little bit of eye tracking. But all you need to know, it's super sticky. You just click on your face, and right now we haven't even clicked on it. It's just finding my face, it's finding Hope's face, and it's sticking to you. I think you tried to film a couple videos on your Mark III, which didn't work out too well because it's incredibly hard, especially if you're not right up next to your camera, to figure out if you're in focus or not.
Yeah, I filmed so many videos on my own where I thought that I was in focus, and then I rewatched the video and spent like 20 minutes trying to film it and looked at it, and the whole thing was out of focus, and I had to start over. So having the face tracking is really, really important. And the camera that you recommended to me is the R
series? The EOS RP. It's like, so Canon has the new, they start with the R, then they made the RP, which is like their entry level, and then they have the R6 and everything, which is obviously the really high-end photography cameras, but they're good at video too. The RP, I believe, is like right around $1,000, but if you want to spend even cheaper, you can get like an 80D, which is one of their crop sensor cameras, a little bit smaller, but it'll take all of your regular Canon glass, and it has dual pixel autofocus too.
Yeah. So. Good stuff. Yeah. And I have the RP, and now I also have the R6, which we're probably going to do a video about here soon. But I definitely recommend getting the face tracking. Just as the person that's having to film it, it is so complicated to do by yourself if you don't have that face tracking. So I would say, as somebody who's filming, it's almost, to me, the audio and the focus is the most important. And then lighting would be like a bonus, because I feel like as natural light photographers, we can manipulate natural light to look really good if we need to. But if you really want to level up, lighting would be the last priority.
Yeah, we probably did that in the wrong order, but lighting probably should have been last. I think that if you want it to look super consistent and super nice, you have to do that, because otherwise lighting is going to change, as I mentioned earlier. But you know, if the lighting changed, that would be a little bit less bad than really horrible audio or your thing being completely out of focus, because how distracting would that be if we were literally blurry this entire time?
Yeah. So honestly, let's say like content is top tier, most important. Like the quality of your content should be priority at all times. And then after that, let's say audio, and then focus, and then lighting. That is like kind of a hierarchy of priority here. But I think that just even seeing the equipment all in one place, like when I tried to go looking for mics and lights and like everything, it just stressed me out. And so I've had this set up and been able to film YouTube videos successfully by myself for months, and it's super easy to use. So like everything he listed is super important and super valuable. And it's all listed in his freebie below. So if you haven't downloaded that and you want like direct links and visuals and more examples of exactly what products you need, then grab that below. But any final thoughts on? I'm
a bit scatterbrained, so I just remembered this for the focus aspect. If you don't have the money to go out and get a new camera that has autofocus tracking, not the end of the world. You just need to shoot at a very high aperture. Yeah. Same thing with photography. Like if you're shooting super low depth of field, it's going to be impossible to focus yourself. So shoot at like an f4 or even higher than that, maybe an f5.6. It's going to be more in focus that way, and it's going to look a lot better, and it could save you a lot of pain and having to refilm stuff. I hope this was helpful to you. Be sure you download that free guide down below. Follow Josh, follow me. We would love to continue to support your businesses. Be sure to subscribe to my channel where I post new content each week, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye.